Hi, this is Yusali. So in this video, we'll be talking about multiplication and division of algebraic fractions. Okay, the rules are pretty simple. So we take a look at multiplication first. So if you're given a over b, right, multiplied by c over d, basically you just have to multiply the two numerator terms together, and you multiply the two denominator terms together, and that gives you ac over bd. Okay, so example, right? As the level one example, suppose we have 3 over x multiplied by y over 2. You just literally multiply 3 and y together in the numerator, and this forms a 2x in the denominator. Okay, so that's a pretty straightforward example. Of course, in life and also in math, right, it's not going to be so simple. You may encounter more complicated looking expressions, something like this. 18 minus 6x over 3y squared multiplied by 8x cubed, 8xy cubed over 2x minus 6. Okay, for this part, you need to know some basic form of algebraic factorization first. And in fact, this is what you do before you try to factorize things as and when you can before you do the rule over here. So, for instance, in the numerator, right, for the first term, 18 minus 6x, there is a common factor of 6. And for me, let me be a bit greedier. I'll take out negative 6. So that my coefficient of x after I factorize becomes 1. Okay, and in this case, this will become a 3, minus 3 for the 18th term. 3y squared remains there. 8xy cubed remains there as well. Okay, for the denominator, 2x minus 6, this can also be factorized. There is a common factor of 2. Take out the 2. Okay, so before you even apply this rule, notice that there are some terms in common both in the numerator and denominator. So for multiplication of algebraic fractions, you are actually allowed to cancel terms that are in common, right, in both top and bottom. So for instance, x minus 3 can be cancelled. In this case, numerator has, for the second term, there's actually 3 copies of y. And for the denominator on the first term, there's 2 copies of y. So you can just cancel, and you're left with 1 copy of y here. I see that 8 and 2 can be cancelled further, so this becomes a 4. 6 and 3 can be cancelled, and that leaves you with a 2. And all you need to do now is to combine whatever that is that. Okay? So from here, I see that this becomes negative 2 times 4 times y. So in total, this becomes a negative 8y. Okay? So this is actually one of the more complicated looking versions to deal with for multiplication. For division, right, the rules are pretty much similar. The only thing you need to think of is in the event that you do a over b divided by c over d, you need to do an additional step, and that is to invert the fraction. So instead of dividing by c over d, you can see it as multiplying by d over c. So there is a flipping effect over here when you divide by a fraction. After that, then you do the same trick, just now multiplication of two fractions. Multiply the a and d together in the numerator, multiply the b and c together in the denominator. So in this case, right, if you look at the level 1 version of the example, suppose I have x over y divided by 2 over x. Right, before you do anything, right, you can flip the fraction around. This becomes x over y multiplied by x over 2. Right, the 2 and x swap places for the top and bottom. So now, if you multiply them up, this becomes x squared in the numerator. For the denominator, it becomes 2 times y. Okay, that's the easy version. For more complicated looking versions, the logic is still the same. Right, just make sure that you factorize out cleanly and simplify the terms individually before you proceed on with the degree cancellation. So this is, for instance, ab minus 2b squared over a divided by a squared minus 2ab over ab. So in this example, you notice that both the numerator terms in both of them, there are terms that are in common that can be taken out. So for the first numerator term, right, you see that there's a common factor of b. Take it out, and you're left with a minus 2b. The denominator term a stays good. For this guy, let me just factorize first. Now, in both terms in the numerator, right, they both contain a. So let's take out a, and that leaves you with a minus 2b. And now you divide this by ab. So once you have the terms in the factorized state already, we can now flip the fraction around. So AB now ends up in the numerator, then the previous numerator is now at the denominator, guys. So you see that these two guys can be cancelled, one on top and one below. And for instance here, the A and A can be cancelled as well. And that leaves you with just 2 copies of B in the numerator. And that leaves you with B squared. Okay. So that's essentially what you can expect to do when it comes to multiplication and division of algebraic fractions. Okay, so that's the end of our video. Hope you like it, and do look forward to our next video.